everybody, this is O-Artistry here, and welcome back to the channel, where today we're going to talk about the garbage Exodia support. I'm not defending it. You can't pay me or sponsor me to defend it. It's garbage. Now, I actually... I can't believe I've done this. So I actually already talked about this, right? I did a recording, got my points across, talked about everything, broke it all down, and then I put it in how I edit my videos, and what was it? My mic was muted the entire time. So I'm gonna do it all again. Basically, it's just bamboozled me. It's bamboozled me. I'm absolutely rattled by this awful support. It's so bad. Right, let's break it down. Let's look into it. I'll put pictures up of the monster and the card effects, all that type of stuff as we go. So, let's do this once more time. Like, for one more time. I'm only doing this one more time. I'm not doing this again. So, the caveman that awoke after a millennium. It's a level 8 Earth Beast Warrior effect monster. And you can only use the first and second effects of this card's name each once per turn. So if this card is in your hand, place this face-up card in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Okay, that's not helping Exodia so far, but let's roll with it. If this card is a continuous spell, you can pay 2,000 life points and reveal one Millennium Cross in your hand. Special summon this card, and then you can add a Millennium monster or a Synergy monster from your deck to your hand, and the third effect is this cannot be destroyed by monster effects. Which is all well and good, but let's talk about how bad this is. Okay, first of all, you cannot use Time Terror Morganite. You can use Time Terror Morganite to summon 2, right? And you draw 2 cards. However, you cannot activate monster effects in hand, which means you cannot use this card's first effect from the get-go. Number 2. This requires you to, first of all, pay 2,000 life points. Now, I'm assuming if you're going first, you can do this. However, you might not have necessarily the life points later game. And then you have to reveal one Millennium Cross. So you have to run 3 Millennium Cross, by the way. And if you don't draw it, you're scuppered. Straight away. Special summon this card and then add a Millennium monster or a Synergy for your deck to hand, which could be Ash Blossom as well, by the way. And then it can't be destroyed by card effects. Yeah, so that's the first bad one already. Let's talk about number 2. Level 6, Earth Rock Golem that guards the Millennium Treasures. Has the same effect as the first, so this card is in your hand, you can place it in your spell trap zone as a continuous spell. Why? Interesting retains, the first one was Synergy, the second one is Millennium Golem. If this card is a continuous spell, you can pay 2,000 life points, that's more life points we are paying. Reveal the Millennium Cross in your hand, special summon this card. Then you can add 1 Temple of the Stone Slabs from your deck to your hand, which is a field spell, by the way. And this card, the activation of your Millennium Cross cannot be negated. Okay, so at least this makes Millennium Cross a tad better, but you can infinite impermanence this. So basically, you can infinite impermanence the Golem of the guards the Millennium Treasures, so then that will be negated, your opponent activates Millennium Cross, and what you know, it'll be negated, because you have an option to, because that only gets that effect as long as Golem has its effects. So even a skill drain kills this card straight away. Shield of the Millennium Dynasty is a level 5 Earth, basically based off the Millennium Shield. I like the scarab on the top. If this card is in your hand, you can place it face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So Haman is getting more support. Exodia hasn't so far. If this card is a continuous spell, you can pay 2,000 life points, reveal a Millennium Cross in your hand, special summon this card, and then add 1 Millennium Cross from your deck to your hand. And this cannot be destroyed by spell or trap effects. Okay. So you need a Millennium Cross in your hand, special summon this card, and then you can add a second copy of Millennium Cross. Why? Why do I need 1 to add another copy of the same spell card? Must be important, clearly. It must be. Oh, it must be such a good spell card. It must be. Right, Millennium Moon Maiden, which is a level 4 light illusion monster, so illusions are now getting involved in Exodia. If this card is in your hand, you can place this face-up card in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. If your opponent activates a card or effect while this card is a continuous spell, you can special summon this card. If you do, your opponent cannot target level 5 or higher illusion and or spellcaster monsters you control with card effects. So that's targeting. But you can still destroy them at this stage, and or you could just remove them. using cards like, oh, I don't know, evenly matched. That's something you can use. You can even use that while that's in a continuous spell. If this card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle, as it is an illusion monster, so it gains those effects. Millennium Fiend Reflection is a level 4 wind illusion monster. If this card is in your hand, you can place it in the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. If your opponent activates a card or effect while this is a continuous spell, you can special summon this card, then you gain life points to half of the attack of one monster on the field. Not the whole attack, half. You've paid 2,000 life points each turn. By the way, if you use all of those monster effects, you're activating an effect that altogether, all three, is 6,000 life points, meaning you only have 2,000 left. So, let's say you activate that and you have the Senjin monster, you're only gaining half of 2,750. So far, that's the best one at play. That's not good. That's garbage. And obviously if this card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. So, basically we've got illusions that make absolutely no difference to the Exodia archetype. And the other three don't do anything for Exodia either. So let's talk about Millennium Cross. It's a normal spell. This is the spell that obviously we need in our hands to activate the monster effects. So this must be a very good spell card. Take 5 Forbidden One monsters from your hand, deck, or face up on the field. Reveal them. Special summon a Phantom God Exodia Incarnate from your extra deck. Then shuffle all face-up monsters you control into the deck except Exodia monsters whose original level is 10 and higher, and Millennium monsters. And you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, but you can normal summon set. After the activation, shuffle this card from your deck instead of sending it to the graveyard. So I am shuffling. I'm shuffling. Not back from the graveyard. No. Hand, deck, or face up on the field. And why would I have a Forbidden One monster face up on my field? Excellent question. I don't know why I would. But it allows me to shuffle them back in to summon a fusion monster, which this can be negated unless we have the card that prevents this from being negated. But the rest of the turn, you cannot summon monsters. So you can set them, but you can't summon. So you can't normal, you can't special, none of that. So this has to be one of the last cards you play. By the way, Nibiru can say hi to all of this, by the way. Nibiru just goes, goodbye. As well, if you summon 5 or more cards. And this card gets shuffled back into the deck instead of it being sent to the graveyard. So, Exodia, obviously you're running a deck of 40. And unless they plan on the ban list to go, you know what, you can have as many pieces of Exodia as possible, this is bad. Why is this bad? Simply put, you're aiming to thin out your deck. Why am I seeing more of these? Like, I don't want to see these. Ironically, isn't it? You need them so that you can use this. You need them so you can use the monster effects. But then you have to get rid of it, and you never want to see it. But it gets shuffled back into the deck instead of being sent to the graveyard. Temple of the Stone Slabs. This is a field spell. Yeah, let's look into it. So you can only use the first effect of this card's name once per turn. So during your main phase, you can place one monster from your hand face up in the spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Then you can place one Millennium monster and or Synergen from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. Okay, so this allows you to place one from your deck for free at the cost of sacrificing one of the monsters you already have in hand to the spell and trap zone. So because remember, they already have this effect, but then you can place one, which ironically you can technically put Millennium Shield or Synergen in your spell and trap zone as a continuous spell, which I just find hilarious. So again, Hamon is getting so much amazing support. If a face-up Millennium monster or Synergen you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place it face-up in your spell trap zone instead of sending it to the graveyard. Sure, let's brick up the back row. Why not? Let's brick it up. Instead of sending them to the graveyard, we can brick it up in our spell trap zone, making it less easy to play our spells and traps. Why not? Exodia Blaze is a quick play spell that one level 10 or higher monster you control with Exodia in its original name gains this effect. So you have to have Exodia that is a level 10 or higher to even use this spell card. If you don't, this is a brick. You pay half your life points. We've already paid 6,000. What's 2,000 more? You know, well, sorry, what's another 1,000? Which kills you, by the way. This kills you. Actively kills you. I just realized that. You're like, it almost does anyways. I'll tell you why. You pay half your life points, and you cannot activate other cards or effects for the rest of the turn. Wow, your opponent can, you can't. Destroy as many face-up cards in the spell trap zone as possible. Okay, so this gets rid of our bricks, and then you can equip 2 Forbidden One monsters from your hand or deck, not graveyard, hand or deck, as equip spells that give it 2,000 attack points. It's not 2,000 for each, it's just 1. So it's 2 of them, and it gives them 2,000. So 2 for 1, essentially. So you've paid, so you've paid 6,000 life points, meaning at this stage in the game, Exodia's attack points is 4,000. However, you've activated this card, which means you've paid half of your life points, which means that your 2,000 goes to 1,000. Which means then that you've made Exodia 3,000. I've done the math, by the way, and if this attacks a defense monster, inflicts piercing. So this doesn't blow up your opponent's board, either, by the way. So I did the math. So if your monster had 3,000 attack points, what this would do as a collective damage was 7,750, which means they have 250 life points left remaining, unless you can summon a monster like Millennium Moon Maiden or something like that. Or the other one, which could give you some additional life points, the Fiend Reflection. But that's a bad equip spell. Let's look at the trap. Whee! So, Raging Hellfire, Exodia Flame. This is obviously name based off of the original attack of Exodia. For the sub, for us dub, it was Obliterate, but for us, it is Raging Hellfire, Exodia Flame. So, you can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. If you control a level 10 or higher Exodia monster, you destroy all cards your opponent controls. Okay, so that at least board swipes, but remember, even if they didn't have a board, you're still not killing them. Unless you have enough monsters. 4 at least. 4 minimum. If this card is in the graveyard, except during the turn it was sent there, ouch, you can then banish it to activate one of these effects. You can either add 1 forbidden monster from your deck or graveyard back to the hand, or shuffle 5 from your graveyard and or banished back into the deck. When are they going to the graveyard? That's an excellent question. Excellent question. Because here's the thing. I would rather use Foolish Burial Goods, send it to the graveyard, don't even run the level 10, and during your next turn, add a Forbidden One from your deck or graveyard to the hand. So you're actively adding them from the deck to the graveyard. However, they need to be there in the first place. So you have to have ways of sending this card to the graveyard. Why would I shuffle the in the banished? Well, maybe just in case. But it's 5 Forbidden Ones. Up to 5, fortunately. But yeah, that's pretty garbage. And here's a picture of all the monsters. So this is all the monsters that you can use. You can either use Millennium Golem, Millennium Shield, or Synergen as well. The originals, why would you use the normals? I don't know. It's an excellent question. Overall, before we get to the future monster, what do I think of the monster spells and traps? Garbage. Yeah, there's no other way of explaining it. It's garbage. Why is it garbage? I'm just going to turn on the lights. Why is it garbage? Simply put, it's garbage because it doesn't help with the Exodia strategy. Their names are forbidden. Forbidden One. They are millenniums. Most of them aren't Spellcaster or Illusion. The core three are Beast Warrior and Rock. So that doesn't protect your monsters either. The spell cards are pointless, and the trap card is ultimately the best one so far. Let's look at the fusion monster before we go into my final thoughts with how this all comes into play. So we have the Phantom Exodia Incarnate, which requires 5 Forbidden 1 monsters. Obviously, if you use the spell card, they are shuffled back into the deck. Or you could use something like the Waking the Dragon. Why you would run Waking the Dragon on this, though, I don't know. So this card in the field cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, but unless you use the other monster to protect it, it can still be targeted, so a compulsory could return this back to the hand. It does have a built-in protection, but we will get to that later, because Evenly Matched and or Skill Drain instantly kills this card. Once per turn, if this card battles during your opponent's damage calculation, it gains attack equal to the current life points, not defense, just attack. And it's equal to your current life points. Now remember, I said that all the original cards, you are paying life points. At most, you're paying 6,000. Your opponent might be gaining more if you're using Upstart Goblin. So you don't want to be running Upstart Goblin. You're trying to kill them as quickly as possible, and giving them 1,000 additional life points is certainly the opposite. So, if this attacks, it gains life points. So it's gaining 2,000. If you use the quick play spell, it's got 4,000. Now remember, if you use the quick play, it then means you have to pay half of your life points, meaning this card's attack points go from 2,000 to 1,000. And then if you then it will be equipped with 2 forbidden ones, so it goes from 1,000 to 3,000. Now you only have 1,000 life points left. That's important, because we're going to get to the last part in a minute. So once per turn, when a spell, trap, or effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation. Okay, so you can bait your opponent with the first, and they might have to use it, and then you use a second. Bye-bye Exodia. Exodia Incarnate, so ta-ra. Once per turn during the end phase, you can set one Exodia spell or trap directly from the deck. Okay, so Exodia Flame is what you're setting. So that's fine. That's not a problem. So you can set that. So let's say you've got the 2,000, right? You during the end phase set this card. So during your next turn, provided nothing happens, you can activate the track card, pop all your opponent's board. You would still have 2,000 life points. At the then quick play spell, it would have 3,000, right? Wrong, because once per turn during your standby phase, you lose 1,000 life points. And that's what I mean by this card kills you. Because if you use the quick play spell during your turn, and then you have, basically this is at best going second. At worst, this is going fourth. What do I mean by that? Simply put, your opponent might have the first turn, or you get the first turn. Get this out. Your opponent goes second. You then have to kill your opponent during the third turn. If you do not, it is game over. However, if your opponent makes you, if your opponent goes first, you then go second. They then get a third turn, and you have to kill them on your fourth. Which means this will be on the board, meaning you had 2,000 life points, now 1,000 life points, meaning you have to pay half, which means it only has 500 attack points, which makes it 25. Which is even less life points to kill your opponent with. Even less. This is bad. This is a bad fusion monster. And let's break down all my thoughts and opinions on this set in general. What I'm thinking about it. So number one, I don't even think this is real. I gotta be honest, I don't think this is real. Like, if you told me, like, this was fake, that, April Fool's, surprise, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But this is bad. This is how bad, I'm in disbelief. That is how bad this is of support. If it is real, this is the worst support I've seen for a deck in a long time. Why? Because A, the strategy for Exodia is its own win con. You draw the 5 pieces of Exodia, and you win the duel. That is Exodia at its absolute core. That is its base. This does not help you do that. None of these cards help you achieve that goal. That is your goal. Your win condition is Exodia. This does not help you do that. The fusion card does not have its own win condition support. You need at least 4 monsters to take your opponent's life points down to 0. If you do not, it's game over, because you will lose to the 1,000 life point cost. Even if you had, let's say, 2 of them, right? Let's say you used 2. You still have to pay the 2,000 life point cost and have the Millennium, the Millennium spell, the Millennium Cross, each turn. By the way, I think they'll name change that. I don't think it'll be called Millennium Cross. I think they'll change that name. I don't think Raging Hellfire necessarily will be in its name either. I think they'll change that. Exodo Blaze will, but they'll probably just call it something Blaze, Exodo Flame, probably, or they'll just call it Exodo Flame in the TCG. C. The fusion card requires 5 Exodia pieces that you shuffle back into the deck. Your win condition goes Torah. Which I'd rather just use the 5 originals. Or I could use Exodius, or, there's Exodia Incarnate. They're better. They're all better than this. Necros is better than this fusion card and the support. Even the one that needs to destroy a Fiend monster to win the duel, even that is better. And that's saying something. If you need the spell cards to obviously play this deck. If you do not have the spell card, you cannot play the game. Which can be easily negated. Sure, Waking the Dragon's card. You could use Waking the Dragon. Summon this out. But either your opponent can negate, negate the Waking the Dragon, or your opponent can negate with something like Skill Drain. Skill Drain kills this deck. Skill Drain kills this deck, absolutely. At a cost of 1,000 life points, there is nothing this deck can do. There's absolutely nothing this deck can do. It literally can't do anything. Except with the hope of using the trap card, which you cannot directly set because the Exodia monster requires it to have its effect. So unless you naturally draw it, which you would need 3 copies of, good luck. Finally, it's a fusion. Why is it a fusion? I don't understand. Obviously, I'm not saying it needed a Synchro, or an Xyz, or a Link, or a Pendulum. Like, it doesn't need any of those. What Exodia needed was just better searching, drawing, support, and this doesn't do any of that. It does absolutely nothing to do any of those. The support itself is garbage. Basically, why does it require them to be continuous spells and traps? Hamon literally, like I've been saying, is better every time. I'd rather just play Hamon using this than Exodia. Like, the Illusion archetype is wasted on here. Like, you could even run these just in Illusion. Like, that's the thing that I find hilarious. They call Millennium Fiend Reflection and Millennium Moon Maiden, but you could honestly just run these as just in your Illusion deck. You could just do that instead. And not even bother with the... Like, you don't even need to bother with the rest of them. Which I just find absolutely hilarious. And yeah, it just, I don't understand what's the point of them. Like, let's break it down. Like, if the thing is, when you look at an archetype, what is the archetype doing? What is it for? What is this built for? If it's for Exodia, it's not Exodia. Because Exodia, like I said, is this win con of drawing your 5. You're not doing that with this at all. If this was built for, even the Fusion Monster. The Fusion Monster's attack points are garbage. Absolutely terrible. Like, this is your level 10 boss monster. Ooh, scary attack points. Armatile is better. Run Armatile. Armatile has 10,000 when it attacks, when it battles. Doesn't need life point differences, it just needs his ability. And if you use the spell card, which is even better than the Millennium one, it gives it so much better protection. Yeah, the illusion side of it, pointless. My final thoughts is that basically I first discovered this because this was posted on my Discord. I've told my Discord my exact thoughts on this deck because it's not. Now, I recently retired Exodia. It was last in my life twin, as you kind of saw on the Master Duel video. It wasn't exactly that deck, but it was kind of on the basis of that. Basically, I want to run live twin for the qualifiers, and I felt Exodia was just slowing me down. It was fun. I managed to do it in my last locals, but I officially decided to retire Exodia. Basically, I want to wait until I would get better support. That was my initial thoughts. Then this came. And if anything, this is doing the opposite. I would not be taking Exodia out of retirement to putting this in. Why? Because Exodia is something I've always loved. I love the strategy of Exodia. It's the idea of you winning the duel by drawing 5, by having all 5 in your hand. It's so different to everything else about the game that I just love that. I love its own separate win condition in a game where the aim of the game is to take your opponent's life points down to 0. Or if you're runic, just banish your opponent's deck. What I love about this is that Exodia, you just need the 5. And I like that. That makes me happy. There's something magical when you draw all 5 pieces. Now, Exodia also has its own special place. Because when I used to look after my grandfather, and I used to show off, like, hey, this is what I'm building, this is what I'm using, these are my decks. When I used to help him back when he was kind of living with my auntie, I used to help care with my dad. I'd show him Exodia, and he liked Exodia. Which, is kind of like this really nice parallel with, obviously, Yugi and his grandfather. So I kind of got to share that experience with my own. And then, sadly, he passed away from COVID. And, since then, I wanted to do my best bringing Exodia around. In the best ways possible. I wanted to make it as most undefeated as possible. That was my goal with Exodia. But looking at the support, that does not do that. It doesn't help me in that goal whatsoever. And, I could be costing myself a sponsorship with Konami, and Yu-Gi-Oh! By bagging on how bad this set is. However, I would not want to sacrifice my integrity by saying how good this is, because it's not. They should be open to criticism. And for YouTubers to be able to say if a card is good or bad and still get their, and have, as long as it's constructive criticism. If you're saying it's bad, for the sake of it being bad, I can understand why. But I'm telling you why that this is bad, and it's because it doesn't fit the archetype that you're designing this around. You're just trying to design an archetype weirdly around Exodia, and it just doesn't do that. It doesn't fit the norm. It doesn't fit the criteria. So whoever designed or decided this was a good idea, they need to have a serious talking to, because this doesn't help the strategy. I always, when I get mad at things, it's not because, I'm angry and I want to voice it. It's because I'm seeing what I love, basically. I always want it to succeed. That's the thing. And that's with, many things. That's why I hate Boruto. Because it's I want Naruto to succeed, and I feel like it's not. And that's the same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! I always want Konami Yu-Gi-Oh! To succeed because it's my favorite card game. And I always want it to do well. It'll have its problems, it'll always have its problems. But I always hope that they have the best interests of the players' minds when creating archetypes and how they build them up. And this doesn't. Who is this for? If you're saying competitive, nope. I would not take this to YCS. If you're saying locals, nope. I wouldn't even take this to locals. You know, if I took this to the local tournaments, I'd get creamed. I'd lose. And I can 100% say that. Looking at this deck, it is not even good for local play. And, you know, if you're a new or returning player, just play Exodia. Like, we've seen how Exodia has been played in Worlds. And, you know, in other championships. We've seen, you know, the one more piece of video. We've seen that. That's how you play it. That's the best way to play it. Adding those does not help you get to that goal at all. Like, just looping Appaloosa with, you know, the Blue Dragon Summoner. It's so much easier, and it's so much better. So yeah, I'm just disappointed. I'm mad, I'm disappointed. Because, you know, people, you know, in the Discord, they responded like, are you gonna run this? Like, am I taking Exodia out of retirement? No. No. This is bad. I would not be. All I'll say is, Konami, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh, please, just do better. That's all I ask. You know, how to improve this. Let's break it down. How would I improve this? First of all, it does not need the continuous spell or trap. I know they've randomly shoved that in, but that's just a waste of text. I don't understand why they've done that. Maybe it would have been better if you cut the life point cost as well. Like, maybe what they could do is keep the spell and trap zone thing, because they've randomly decided that. But first of all, change the name, right? Instead of them being Millenniums, be Forbidden Ones. That makes them a lot better by being the caveman that awoke as the Forbidden One. Or whatever, like, that's better, because because what the fusion monster requires is Forbidden One monsters. So that would be better if these were Forbidden One monsters, at least. And then instead of 2,000 life points, make it 1,000 life points. That's way better. Also, change Millennium Fiend Reflection, so instead of half of the attack of one monster, make it the whole, please. That makes it better, at least. Like, make it the whole attack points. Also, they needed ironically, they need a better searcher for Millennium Cross. The Millennium Shield needs you to have Millennium Cross to search another Millennium Cross. This is like Kogimiru levels of bad, in the sense that if you didn't have the Iron Core of Kogimiru or the required additional card, they had to go. So let's say they only had the Iron Core spell card. If you didn't have that, you were toast. And that's the exact same with this deck. If you do not draw Millennium Cross, which obviously you would build a 40 card deck, and then you'd run a 30 card deck. You would have to run 3 copies of it. So that gives you like a 1 in 37. Obviously, depending if you go in first or second, you draw 5 cards. So I'm not very good at math, but the odds are not in your favor. Maybe if they had a card that acted as Millennium Cross, that would make the deck better. Or maybe if the field spell actively searched Millennium Cross, that would at least be better. But yeah, so at least that's some ideas, spitball how to improve this. It still doesn't make it better, but it makes it playable to a degree. Like, but this is honestly just, I'm just sad. I'm sad, I'm disappointed. Like, because, you know, if I was gonna see Exodia support, this is not what I imagined. Like, I don't imagine anyone sitting there and going, yeah, this is what Exodia really needs. Like, I just don't get it. That's my final thoughts. I don't understand it. So, you know, I'm sorry, like, you know, please, you know, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. But, you know, my videos will not be like this. You know, I just thought it'd be a bit more spicy than the others. You know, and yeah, just party on, peeps. Take care, guys. It was great to see you. We'll see you again in the next one.